Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here, coming at you again with another video over on Ark Survival Ascended. And in this video, I am going to talk about the state of the Ark. Now, to be completely honest, Ark has been under a massive amount of speculation recently, even though they've brought us more and more content than they have in, honestly, years. People kind of forget that. But the reason that they're under speculation is DDoSing. I'll explain all of that in just a second here. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything you need to know about what's going on in Ark right now, because there is a lot to look forward to, even though at this moment there's a lot that is killing Ark. And I completely understand. I'm going to show you pictures. I'm going to show you everything you need to know in this video. So, obviously it might take me a minute, but let's get started with it. All right. So anyways, you can see that I am on Ark's newest map, Astraeos, that just released. Now, for those of you that didn't play Ark when it first came out, Ark had Island, and then it had a mod map, the center. It had Scorched Earth, and it also had Ragnarok. Now, Ragnarok was an amazing map. It's arguably everybody's favorite map. It came out as a completely unfinished map, just like Astraeos did, because I've heard a lot of people be like, why would they release an unfinished map? If you have been playing Ark since basically the beginning, you know that Ragnarok, when it released, only had like 50% of the map that we now know today. There literally wasn't a desert biome. It just didn't exist. And there were large other portions of the map and caves that needed to be added to the game. So Astraeos, though it is a beautiful map, and we can kind of zoom in on the map, I'm going to go ahead and go into the actual map so you can see it's got a massive, this thing is huge, right? We know that this whole map is massive. Necatus, the mob developer for this map, is actually making a zone that he's telling us that is the same size as Faquintos and Corinthos on the map. Now, what that means basically is that he is literally going to double the size of the map in the next update. Now, that's going to happen in a month, so you have to wait a little bit, but it is a great map. Now, for those of you that are like, why would they release it like this? Because they need to add more content right now, and that's just how it is. Ark, when they released Ark Survival Ascended, they should have, honestly, they should have waited a little bit, because when they did release Survival Ascended, they released it with only one map, and that was the island. So we only had the island for a long period of time. And that was before they released their upcoming maps after that, with the release of the center and Scorched Earth, and now Aberration, obviously, Extinction, and Astraeos. So now we've got 5 maps, so we at least have some to bounce around on and play with. But they did not release enough when the game first came out, and that is why you saw a massive decline in the overall player base. Specifically on Steam, console kept a pretty steady player base either way, because most people transitioned over. Now, Steam, people play about equivalent levels of Ark Survival Evolved and Ascended still, so you got to kind of keep that in mind. There are charts to show that. Just go to like Steam server pops and stuff like that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So recently, Ark Survival Ascended has actually been overtaking it. So you're actually getting more people playing. It's just not like it was in its heyday. When Ark released Genesis and Genesis 2 over on Ark Survival Evolved, you released a map that created all kinds of new stuff, kind of like Astraeos is trying to do with all kinds of new stuff. But you had 200,000 people playing simultaneously on Steam servers, which is wild, right? Now, though it was at peak at that point in time, it is still a very popular game, still one of the most best-selling games of all time. For those of you like, it's a terrible game, no one likes it. Yeah, it's a glitchy mess. But arguably, it's the only game in its category. There's nothing else out there that you can have a survival-based game where you have dinosaurs, you can play online with your friends. There's a decent PvE versus PvP system that exists. Whether you want to play one or the other, it's up to you. And lots of perks to like real time, so it's not just like, ooh, I got infinite stuff and you're bored in 3 days. It's why people play for years, not just days. Now, it's also the reason people hate it, because when you lose everything, gosh, it hurts so bad, especially when your base gets raided after months of building it. There's nothing worse. Now, that is kind of just like the base fundamentals that you need to know about Ark. Now let's go ahead and pull up some of the things that matter a lot. So this is Discord, right? So I'm going to pull up a Discord just so you can see it right now. This is the official Ark Discord. This is not some weird thing. And just so you can kind of see it in the background. Now, announcements, typically Ark does their announcements through Discords. Whether you want to say that's a good thing or not, because they don't really have a good advertising or advertisement crew. They don't have a way to put it out. They don't really do good YouTube videos. They don't do anything. So they push it out on their Discord server and then do announcements. That includes everything from mod showcases to creature winners, which is kind of cool. We'll talk about that in just a second. To new skins. Microtransactions are kind of becoming their thing, but it's kind of every game's thing, so you can't really hate on them for that. Status updates get pushed here, patch notes get pushed here, Discord news gets pushed here, and also if you're curious about server rates, for those of you that are playing on console, you should try and get a Discord because this will give you everything you need to know. This is where they release all of their information about Ark. Now, we know that there's a whole bunch of stuff incoming. We know that Ark 2 is still technically on the horizon, even though we haven't seen anything about it. If you listen to the last time they talked about it, they essentially said, we do not have the graphics card's capabilities, us as fans, to run Ark 2. So they have a good chunk of it made. They're just not ready to release it. So for the time being, Ark Survival Ascended is what we get. Now, the technical path that they released, they're not really following super well, but I would guess by the end of next year, all of the content for Ark Survival Ascended will have been released. Now, they will probably nickel and dime us along the way, but it's kind of is what it is. So that's just telling you guys, go to Discord, join their official Ark Discord if you want to see what I'm talking about when it comes to actually finding news instead of kind of just, I don't know, not knowing anything. You should try and keep yourself informed. Now, the next thing I'm going to bring up is the State of the Ark when it comes to their actual announcements. So this is where they release, if you haven't seen survivetheark.com, this is where they release every single week. There's a Friday release date of what is going on in Ark in their next plans. Now, they do a pretty good job of keeping this updated, but the reality of the situation is for the last month or so, they have been struggling with DDoS attacks. Now, what is a DDoS attack? Now, some people say they know, but they don't really. Essentially, you have one or multiple people that have a net meaning like a large number of either bots or controlled computers that essentially send what's called a query or a ping or something like that to a server, i.e. like the servers you play on in games. Let's say you play on North American server Island 7, right? Let's say you're playing on Island 7 in North American servers. Ark is having a DDoS attack because the server that is attached to, there is a person or multiple people essentially getting thousands upon thousands and thousands of pings or requests to these. Now, servers, just like computers, can't handle that much information. When they take that much information in, it essentially shuts it down. It's like freezes. Like, you know, when your computer is trying to run Ark, for example, and it's too much, so it like freezes and shuts down. If that's never happened to you, you must have a super PC. But if you, I don't know what PC you're running, but tell me about it. That's essentially what's happening to their online servers. Someone is sending them a ton of requests. The server cannot give that amount of requests back, so the server shuts down because it's like overloaded. Now, that's been happening to them for about a month. Now, the negative side of that, it's probably Ark players, honestly, that are salty in some way, shape, or form. But here's the thing, right? It's not Ark's fault that they're getting DDoSed. What is Ark's fault is they've kind of progressed towards a fan base that almost kind of caters to that behavior. It caters to cheating. It caters to paying real life dollars for these dinosaurs in game. It caters to all kinds of things that we didn't really see Ark being. Like, I didn't see it being, at least. I'm sure some people did. Like, real life hours means people are going to actually care and they're going to use real life consequences, like DDoSing a server or trying to DDoS an individual to prevent them from getting online, or DDoS an individual cluster so they know that those people can't log online. That's negative. Now, has Ark attracted those players? Yeah, it kind of has. It's attracted the cheaters because there's no good anti-cheat right now that exists in Ark that will prevent people from speed hacking or aimbot or all of these things. But I want you to think about it this way too. People cheat in every single game. Rainbow Six, people cheat aimbot all the time, even like professionals. Every game is going to have cheaters. It just feels worse in Ark due to the fact that we have this ecosystem in place that requires real time. It's not like a Rainbow Six where you can log in and 2 minutes later get kicked out of the game or something like that. You got to spend 10 hours getting started, 10 hours building a base, 10 hours doing this. Like, real life time hurts when you lose it. So people cheat to try and protect that. So I almost get it on some level, but there needs to be a better system in place. So cheaters are pushing people off of official servers. Are unofficial servers awesome? Most are pretty good. Now, the negative side of unofficial servers is they're run by unofficial members. These are not professionals. These are people that just run them either out of the goodness of their heart or kind of turn it into like a side business where it's like, hey, you can support me by paying this for this pack or whatever it is, right? I think unofficial servers are certainly better, but Ark has kind of like pushed its player base towards that because of the failure of official online servers, especially because they don't have any resets. So people get these overpowered, insane dinos, and it's like, what's the point if you're already at endgame Like, you can't get better. So like, what's the actual point in playing? Now, if you restart and play unofficial, a lot of people get some joy in that. So all of that being said, there's a lot of the problems that Ark has experienced. Now, obviously I've talked about the problems. What are the positives? Because a lot of us keep coming back to this game. The reality of the situation is there's no other game in this category. No other game that has been running for 10 years. Now, the game has been running for 10 years. It's been a glitchy mess, but that's kind of because of the scope of the game. It has so many different things you can do. You can have an adventure. You can raise creatures that you have tamed that exist in the real world. You can complete supply drops. You can just look at this beautiful ecosystem. You can farm. There's so many different things that you can do in Ark that everyone is bound to find something that breaks the game every now and then. So it is a beautiful game. You're going to have nefarious people every single day. It's just how it is. That's kind of what these kind of games attract. Now, the one benefit that I'll give Ark, even through all this shenanigans, a lot of companies would have just been like, all right, we're going to pack our bags and leave. They're still producing content. Now, some people are immediately going to be like, teach, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter. They're producing content, and they wouldn't produce it if people didn't buy it. Do I think the cosmetic packs are cool? Yeah, they don't actually give you any perks for buying them. Where I do get a little bit questionable is when they, have an individual dino available for $5 or $6 and you can buy that dino, but if you don't have the dino, you can't use it. I think that's a little bit messed up, but I think cosmetics packs, like anyone that's complaining about cosmetics packs, it's like, they got to make money, man. And if you're going to buy it, cool. If you're not going to buy it, cool too. They're just cool to have. Nothing super special. So I think when they release things like this with the animated series on the 26th, that's an awesome idea, right? Other things to look forward to in Ark. So we've got 5 maps now. Astraeus is going to keep getting fixed. We have Ragnarok coming out in the next month or so. We have the next map in the series, I guess, like with Valguero. You've got Fjordor coming out. You've got a new map. Hopefully in November it actually releases with their like custom map. You've got Genesis 1, Genesis 2. You have tons of content incoming. Now, yes, a lot of these maps are things that already exist, but new creatures are being released with them. Now, obviously I'm looking at this right now, which is like that, but I want to go over here and show you because they are releasing new creatures still. I wish they'd do more to change the meta a little bit, maybe give old creatures some reworks because they've already got them in the game. But you can see these are some of the creatures that have won the community votes of the past. The Dreadnoughtus, the Shasta, not a good creature, mediocre creature. Elings can do a ton of damage. Fazulo's good at harming flint. Rhynie Ignatha, I don't know if I'm saying that properly, really powerful creature. And then this is one of the most useless creatures in the game. But there's a new Mega Raptor in town, so we'll see if it's any good. Now, obviously, they talked about some of the things in this last update where you can see that they're trying to fix some of these issues that are going on. But they are acknowledging them, so it is a thing. But there's a ton of content incoming, things that I look forward to, right? Some of my favorite maps. I love Aberration, but Ragnarok is just a classic map. It's a classic PvP map. It's where most people kind of got their real start to Ark, their love for Ark, because you got these big open fields, big zones, big creatures, wyverns. Everything you need was kind of in Ragnarok until they added some of the more special creatures. So that's going to really open up the ball game. Now, the one thing that also is kind of, I guess, Ark is doing well at this moment is they are fixing the problems. It's just slowly, right? Because they've released this on Unreal Engine 5 or not. Yeah, is it 5? I don't remember what version they're on now. It's like 5.3 or something like that. But because of that, it's much more graphically intense. So even when you have someone like me, who's currently running a 4080 Super, I literally have some lag spikes if I'm trying to do anything else or I'm running on full graphics. So you have to compensate for some of those things. So, keep in mind that it is a beautiful game. You just might not be able to play on high settings, which really sucks and pisses some people off. So all of that being said, what am I telling you, right? Yes, Ark is a mess. It has always been a mess. For those of you that have just started playing and are complaining, man, I remember in the early days of Ark where people were literally riding around on brooms, bombing people's base in GCM. Okay. When ASA first released, yes, GCM was a thing. People were using that hack. Kind of crazy. Now, there's lots of other things that happened. It's always been a glitchy mess, but that's kind of why we love it, right? You find out there's something you can kind of do that's kind of cheeky. And as long as it's not crossing the line, I see no problem with it. I teach people glitches and tricks all the time, things that you can use like boss fights, things along those lines. They usually end up patching them because I release them. But that's kind of the point of a game like this, to kind of explore and find things and be like, oh, this is cool. But when it comes to like the prettiness of the game, like this is up there for one of the best. So it'll still go down as one of, if not, it's probably my favorite game of all time, right? Most people, it'll be their favorite game of all time because of the uniqueness of it. I don't know if there will ever be another Ark. I don't think Ark 2 is going to be like this, and I think that there's going to be a bunch of big changes still incoming, a lot of graphical fixes, but I will give Ark the credit of they do tend to fix the problems as they figure out how to fix the problems. That does frustrate fans because they're like, well, why didn't you fix it before you released it? To be honest, they probably don't know about the problem half the time, but that is what it is. So in my opinion, Ark is going in the right direction. It just hurts right now, especially for official players where they're trying to play the game and they literally can't. So play the game, but I would encourage you to think about maybe playing on unofficial, playing solo, playing with your friends. Don't try and play these official servers where it's much more toxic. Go to a less toxic environment, and I'm sure you will enjoy Ark a lot more. Not guaranteed, but I think you would. So that is kind of my personal opinion on the good, the bad, and the ugly that's happening in Ark right now. And you really should, if you haven't tried Ark, or if you haven't purchased ASA, if you can afford it, obviously don't buy something you can't afford. It is worth it. It looks like a laggy mess on my screen right now, but I tell you what, if I actually turn down the settings and remove the 47 mods that I have in my game, it is really pretty. It is a fun game to play. It is enjoyable, and I don't have to play on high settings, but it's unique, right? You can't get a game where you can look in the water, see a whole bunch of underwater dinosaurs, and just have fun, right? Have some fun, try and play the game for what it is, and it's a 10-year-old game. There's a lot of core things that are still amazing, but are 10 years old in their actual creation point. So when they release Ark 2, I'm hopeful that they'll fix a lot of these things and kind of make a different game and kind of hopefully go on their own route, but we'll see. So, long story short, I love Ark. I'm going to keep playing Ark. I think you should certainly give it a try if you haven't already. If you haven't purchased ASA, it's a little bit messy, but it is a lot of fun. There's a lot of good things that I would say ASA is worth. If your system can run it, you should run it. Yeah. So anyways, I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, and I think you should too. Obviously, it hurts right now, but it kind of is what it is. So I hope this video helps you out. If you don't mind, smash that like button, leave a comment, tell me what you think. I know I just said a ton, but that's kind of where I'm at. So hopefully this video helps. And other than that, teach.